Good evening, loved ones, and thank you for being here. This is One Love Consciousness Movement Midweek Connection, and I'm honored to be with all of you. I'm grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for being on this journey to unfolding and expanding more and more and more. And the more we grow, the less we believe, because beliefs we find are confining, and often we allow them too much to define us. And so it is a beautiful thing to be growing with you and expanding in conscious consistently, allowing ourselves to unlearn, to deprogram, to be much more curious and flexible than anything else, to practice that Zimbardas, I believe is how you say it, Zimbardas, that beginner's mind. To be able to say, I don't know, and I realize that I don't know could possibly be the key to actually knowing, or at least living in the knowing and living in the now. We are a group of people who, on this Valentine's Day, understand that Valentine's Day is not just a day. When we talk about love and lovers and that kind of thing, we know that this is really one love and one consciousness, one heart. We are really irrevocably and eternally connected to each other. And so I greet you in the spirit of love, because that's who we are. We are one love. We are one heart. And we have decided to get together and keep this movement of one love going. We believe that love is the answer really to every single question. We actually believe, if we have any beliefs, that is, our thinking and our philosophy here is that God is love. And they that worship God worship in spirit and in truth, and that truth and that spirit is a loving awareness. And so if God is love and love is God, then what happens when we put our worship, our worth, the worth that what we decide to value has worth? What happens if we put our worship toward that one love? Our worship, we're calling it worthy of our attention and our intention. And for some, it's interesting how that creates tension, because we believe that love is the answer, and some people think that that's soft. I say that it's the most challenging thing you'll ever do to truly live love. When you truly live love, you have to be willing to give up some of your own personal ego. But we've chosen to live the law of love and unconditional love, that agape, as it says in the Greek, that agape, that divine kind of love. It's that essence and that energy from which everything we believe comes to be. And so I'm thankful for all of you who are a part of this movement. We're going to take just a few moments to center ourselves right before we get into talking about some more of these principles. I shared last week with you a few things. I think it was three of these different principles. Everything has a dharma, so start living your dharma. Show compassion, start living not just love, but compassion. And then find strength in curiosity and flexibility. And this week, there's some more things I'd like to share with you along those lines. Really, we've kind of set in place the first of this year, sort of really declaring who we are, declaring our essence, our ingredients, so that the world can know, and these can be set up as an understanding of really what one love intends to give space to, our vibrational frequency, so that you can understand that, and so that we can share that with the rest of the world. Or anyone can come on to our archives at any point in time and be able to find these things that basically say one love, who we are. In fact, I'll probably go in and start tweaking some of the titles on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page of the archives, that essentially says who we are, so that they can be easier to discover. I'm going to invite you for just a moment, if you would, to gather in here now. Bring yourself into a time of centering. Allow yourself to experience in this moment the essence of true, unconditional love. This loving awareness that brings about growth, causes everything. It's the bedrock from which everything comes to be. And so in this moment, I receive a deep breath. let go. And I say thank you. Thank you, pure presence, for guiding and directing the rest of this time together. Take from us what we don't need. Bring to us what we do need. Spirit of truth, we are surrendered. So Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk on the water wherever you call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander. And my faith is made stronger in your presence. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Now, from that place of surrender and centeredness, I want to share with you a few things that are principles. These are kind of principles that we share, the pointings of what we consider to be truths that really are not new. These are truths that, well, because truth always is, right? Truth is just, it is an eternal, universal rule or law. But these are truths that we hold dear. We hold them loosely because we believe that any belief should be a loose garment. Just like we talked this last week about flattery and criticism, that you should always wear both of those as loose garments. And the same is true for any kind of belief, because otherwise it becomes another dogma, it becomes fundamentalism, and we can get to the place where we're extreme about it and dogmatic about it. And we choose not to be living in the dogmas and in the extremes. But these are some things that we hold to be dear to us. I have decided that these are principles I choose to live by. And if you don't choose to live by these, that doesn't mean you're out. There's nothing that puts you out. You're in, period. But these are some suggested ways of thinking and living. And so our number 4 thing, and I'll go back through the 3, everything has a dharma. So start to live your dharma. And dharma is deeper than purpose. I encourage you to go back and watch the service from this last Sunday at First Unity Spiritual Campus and the chat that we had there, because we talked a little bit about this, how that there's no such thing as really having a purpose. That's almost like having a particular job duty, something you have to do. We choose to live from the get to instead of the have to. Dharma is a little different than purpose, a little different than maybe even calling. Dharma is your natural flow in things. Dogs have a dharma of barking. Or horses have a dharma of neighing. Now, not the words, but the activity. And it's pretty typical based on their DNA. All of us are loaded and coated with the divine nature, and it shows up in different activities. I sat with someone earlier today who is a psychic. They are an intuitive, and that's their flow. I sat earlier with someone who is a healer, and that is their flow. They believe that they are a divine healer, and that's the way they flow. They're not necessarily a spiritual teacher or speaker, but they feel like they flow in that gift. Some people are musically inclined, and that's a dharma for them. It's a part of your natural flow. Finding what is natural to you. It's going to show up as your passion in life in some way. So everything has a dharma. Start to live your dharma. And the number 2, show compassion. Don't just say you love, but actually show compassion. And we talked a little bit about that and how compassion promotes a healthy life and a peaceful life. Having the ability to have compassion. When you have compassion, you're able to forgive. Or as I like Neil Donald Walsh says, nothing needs forgiveness. Because forgiveness, ultimately as you mature, forgiveness is replaced by understanding. And you get to the place where you can start understanding, and it's seeking to understand where people are coming from, and that leads to a very healthy life. And then we talked about finding strength in curiosity and flexibility instead of certainty. Strength is not found in certainty. Blessed are the flexible, for they are not easily broken. The greatest strength is the ability to be bendable, to be flexible, to have a sense of curiosity, to not be slammed shut by belief, but open to the wonder of all that's possible. And then number 4, we're moving through this evening, and we may get to 4 and 5. I'm not sure yet. I don't want to hold you too long. But number 4 is the power of I am, understanding the I amness, and understanding this through sort of the lens of the Jewish Bible and the Christian Bible, of the Old Testament of the Christian Bible, where there's an introduction that is given by God. It becomes known as God. The phenomenon is thought of as God. And the burning bush, the bush that speaks to Moses in the wilderness and says to him, I am the I am. And Moses is about to embark on his dharma, a part of his calling, purpose, or dharma. And he's asking, who am I supposed to tell Pharaoh sent me? In other words, where's my authority found? And there's a couple of things I'd like to point out. One, this message in this burning bush says, tell Pharaoh, I am that I am sent you. In the original language, it's Yud He Vav He, which really means the happening. But I want us to see a little bit of a twist on this too. Basically, this burning bush that is referred to as God speaking through, because it's a strange phenomenon, seems to be supernatural instead of natural, because naturally it would seem that the bush would be consumed, but it wasn't. It was just on fire and speaking. And this messenger says essentially, you are enough to Moses. Moses is like, okay, who from the external is going to legitimize this message that I'm about to share? In other words, who's the author? And this voice basically puts it back, the onus back on Moses, and says, no, you are enough. So I'd like to say it this way: when you stand in your I amness, you become enough, or you wake up to the reality that you were the whole time. But here's where I want to go with this evening, because of our awareness of I am. I'll share with you that in his book, Wishes Fulfilled, Dr. Wayne Dyer shares that by using I am, we are invoking the godlike divine part of our own selves. And all of you know that Dr. Dyer was one of my teachers, continues to be. But Dr. Dyer demonstrates that in the verses found in Exodus that God tells Moses, I am that I am, and that he says, let's be aware of how we are using the I am in our daily lives. In other words, when we are using I am, we are essentially asserting our natural divine energy or our divine nature. So we need to be conscious in our life the words and the activities that follow when we say I am. And I wrote this down. Through the use of I am, we are taught to experience the feeling of our wishes being fulfilled. Dr. Wayne Dyer wrote the book Wishes Fulfilled. Neville Goddard talked about this many years ago, that use the I am and connect it with a feeling. And stop saying I am sick. Stop saying I am poor. Stop saying I am broke. Stop saying that I am sad. Even if my body or my mind is feeling sad, I refuse to say I am sad. In fact, I'll say this to my mind often: you be as depressed as you want to be, but don't expect me to follow you. There is this truth, this understanding that the I that I am transcends these temporary feelings, emotions, and thoughts. And so I don't say I am sick. I will often say my body is feeling challenged and my body is feeling unwell. But I declare that I am well. Now some people will say that's just denial, it's semantics. And I call it a system, and it's a system that works for me. So that from the core of my being that can never be sick, can never be vexed, can never be diseased, can never be grieved. From the core of my being, I'm coaching this temporary vessel into its wellness and into its healing and its well-being and its natural divine state. So when I'm saying I am asserting and inserting my divine nature. So I'm encouraging us to start working with our feelings to accomplish what it is we want in our life and utilize the I am. I am encouraging us to experience the feelings of accomplishment before we have even accomplished the thing we've gone to accomplish. To experience the feeling of success even before we have what people would deem as success. To feel and experience the feeling of being healthy, wealthy, and wise even before the numbers match up on our health chart or on our wealth chart. To go ahead and allow yourself to invoke that I am feeling and allow yourself to feel into it first. Guide your emotions instead of being guided by them. If you seek peace, meditate with I am peace, and then allow yourself to feel that. I want to point to the idea that by doing this, we're literally training our subconscious. And Dr. Joe Dispenza has done a tremendous amount of work on this, that when you can have a heightened emotion that is also connected to a heightened thought, that if you can bring the emotion and the thought together and get them to coalesce and get them to create, essentially to make love, you will conceive something within your body where your body will not know the difference of whether or not you experienced it in reality, what we call reality, or not. Your brain will record it as an experience. Then your body is going to start to follow suit. Now, for some people this sounds like woo-woo, but listen to me. You can train your brain to create the life you want. And I'm encouraging us to use the power of the I am to do that. We are associating an affirmation with a positive feeling. Thus, we are programming our subconscious mind and making life happen in an enjoyable way. We are making our life follow suit with that positive feeling along with that affirmation. I am healthy. I am happy. I am peace. I am love. I am joy. I am wealthy, healthy, and wise. We're programming the unconscious mind to start following that message instead of the other messages that it tends to follow. This is a powerful way to manifest the life you want, by choosing to direct the I am energy. Send it toward what you want, not what you don't want. This actually works. Then you begin to manifest, because when you get an affirmation connected to a feeling, you create a program. And that program will start to play out in your mind, and as a result, it will begin to play out in your body and in your words and your activity. Number 5, let go of these false ideas. I want to really point out some ideas. And Dr. Wayne Dyer, and again, one of my favorite teachers about these practical things, Dr. Wayne Dyer shared these things, and these have become a part of my life, and I share them with you today. Let go of these false ideas. Let go of the idea that I am what I have. Let go of the idea, it's a false idea, that I am what I achieve or accomplish. Let go of the idea that I am what people think of me. Release yourself from the idea that I'm separate from everything I want in my life. Let go of this. This is false programming from religion that says I am separate from God. Because I have never been separate from God, and I never can be separate from God. God is life itself unfolding as me. I'm never disconnected from it. You are not what you have. The material things that you may have, all of them have an expiration date on them. You don't. You're not one that expires. You are an eternal, you're an eternal spirit having a temporary human experience and expression. You are an eternal spirit having a temporary human experience and expression. You're expressing currently as a human being, but the eternal you, the animating force within you, is absolutely connected to the consciousness, connected to the greatness and to the all, connected to the source. You are a resource of a human at this present moment, but you, the true you, is eternal. So you can't be what you have. And I'll tell you this, if you're lost in the identifying with what you have, when whatever you had is gone, then where are you? You're not what you have. If the car was taken, if the relationship was broken, if the house was burned to the ground, if your job was gone, would you still exist? Yes, you would, which means you're not those things. You're not your achievements. So no matter how many accolades you get, no matter how many titles or labels that people may put on you, or you may choose to wear in this, whatever role you're deciding to play in this life, you're not those achievements. You're not your degree. You're not your achievements in your career. You're not what people think you are. Let go of your reputation and walk boldly in your identification. Get into your identity and let the reputation go. Whatever other people think about you is their business, and don't make it yours. These are some very solid principles to live by. If you're doing this, if you're not doing this even as a religious or a spiritual practice, if you're just doing this for practicality's sake, to just be a practical being who's free from all of the trappings of this world. These are wonderful things to practice. I am not what somebody thinks. I saw a quote, and I won't be able to quote it exactly because I haven't memorized it yet, but essentially it said this. When someone comes up to you and they tell you that someone else has an ill feeling about you, or they shared something ill of you, instead of justifying or defending, instead say, oh my God, man, if they knew all that I have done wrong, they wouldn't have just told you that. What a great response. Don't justify it. Don't get into trying to defend it. Say to them, man, if that's all they told you, woo, they must not know the half of me. And then laugh it off and move on. Now, it doesn't mean that we're ever beyond constructive criticism or learning. That's not what I mean. I don't mean be arrogant. Definitely choose to have a life of humility. But understand this. What other people think about you, if you make it your business, you will go bankrupt in this life. So let that go. That includes your exes. That includes your family members who think they know you the most. Friends are God's apology for family. It's an old quote. It's kind of funny. But it feels true sometimes. Friends are God's apology for family. My family, my blood relatives, now not necessarily my immediate family, but my blood relatives, they don't really know me. They wouldn't, if somebody asked them their opinion of me, they don't actually know me. There's very little relationship there. I mean, it just is a fact. And a lot of people who knew me 20 years ago, when I was 25 years ago, when I was pastoring my first church, a lot of people who knew me then, they have no idea who I've become. So I can't be dependent in my present moment on those people's opinions of who I was then. And that individual that I was then is not the same individual that you see before you today. The individual that you see before you today is not the same individual that I was this time last year. I have changed, I've shifted, I've expanded. We all hopefully are growing together in some way, but even if we're not, we're still growing. You're still expanding. You just may not be aware of it. But be careful again that you don't measure any of your value based on what other people think about you. Now here's two more, and I'm going to close with these. Two more. Let go of the false idea that I am somehow separate from everything I want in this life. The things that you imagine that you want, they are in consciousness somewhere, otherwise you couldn't desire them. They are in consciousness somewhere, otherwise you wouldn't be able to desire them. You're not separate from the life you want. You're also not separate from the things you want. Those things you may not hold them in your physical hands at this point, but you can hold them in the reality of consciousness. And I go back to what we said a moment ago, that an affirmation with a positive feeling creates a manifestation because it programs your subconscious mind. So let go of the programming that says you're separate from wealth and health and well-being. You're not separate from those things. You're not separate from peace and from love and from harmony and unity. You are connected irrevocably and internally with the all. And you're not separate from the life that you want. You're not separate from anything. Once you recognize your oneness with all things, you begin to work with it instead of working against it. You don't have to work for it. You work with it. Just like I said this last Sunday, let go of this idea that you need to make a living. You're either living or you're not. Choose to let go of the need to make a living and instead choose to live, knowing that you are not separate from everything you want in life. And lastly, I am not separate from God. Now, this goes against some religious theology, and some people will call this, I've recently had some people say that some of the things that I say are false doctrine. Well, I don't claim to have a doctrine. Truly, I don't. People who know me know this. People who know me know that I'll tell you in a flat second that I believe very little. But the philosophy of life, the principles in life I choose to live by, this is one of them. And that's that you're not separate from God. Period. You never have been and you never will be. Not ever in eternity will you be separate from God. To be separate from God is to not exist, because life just is. And if you're a part of life, which you are, then you are a part of God, and God is a part of you. You're not separate from God if you don't. The idea, the belief is, by some, is that unless you confess Jesus as your Lord and Savior, or you pray a certain way at a certain time of day, pointed in a certain direction, or whatever it be, that this qualifies you to be connected with God. No. You can be separate in your own mind, because the mind often is separate. It separates itself in some way. That's called the ego. The ego needs separation to grow. Knowing your connectedness and knowing your oneness shrinks the ego. But you have never been separate from God. And the religions that teach that, in my personal opinion, have created a terrible blindness on the planet. And a part of my work, I believe, to do in this life is to do what I can to reverse that blindness. I have been anointed to preach the good news to the poor, the opening of the prison to those who are captive, and the opening of the eyes to those who are blind. This is the same anointing that Jesus of Nazareth had. I have that anointing too. So do you if you'll allow it to grow in you. So the reason that I'm sharing these things is because I'm hoping that the scales will fall from people's eyes. No matter what you ever do in this life or the next, you're not separate from God. It's impossible. So let go of the false idea that you are separate from God. When you decide to associate your identity with temporary materials, with success, with achievements, you're discrediting and you're minimizing your infinitism, your infiniteness. You are also minimizing the source from which you came. So detach from these beliefs. Let go of these false ideas. Allow yourself today to be delivered, to be freed from, I am what I have. I am what I achieve. I am what people think I am. Detach from this belief system that I'm separate from everything I want in this life. I'm having to beg for it and work for it and hope it comes. You're not separate from it. Attract it. Turn up the vibrational frequency within you that attracts that. Because your vibe will reveal your tribe, but your vibe will also, the vibration with which you vibe, the frequency at which you vibrate, will determine what gets attracted into your life. Because you don't get what you want, you get what you are. So vibrate at that high level. You're not separate from anything. And lastly, you're not separate from God. Not ever. That divinity is within you, through you, as you, showing up as you. It flows. Listen, if you will learn to think like God, act like God, think like God, you will begin to create as a God, because you are of the God class. And people who don't believe that, and people who will challenge that, let them continue to live in that fallen state of mind. You choose to rise above it. You choose to ascend and transcend so that you can transform. Because the form that we have been formed in, the information we have been given, has brought inflammation of our souls and self-causing dis-ease, a disconnection from our ease. And this message brings you back into inspiration, which is to be in spirit, and heals you of all your diseases. That sounds audacious, John. Maybe so. But I believe in this. I really do. If there's anything I believe, I do believe in this. And so, in closing, remember that you have the power of the I am within you. Be mindful of what you're saying, following the words I am, because you're invoking, you're asserting and inserting your divine nature when you use the words I am. And let go of the false ideas that say that you are what you have and you are what you achieve. You're the degree, you're the title, all of that. Let go of thinking that I am what people think about me. Remember that you're not separate from the life you want, and remember that you're not separate from God. If we can lean into these things, we can really start to turn the boat of our life in a better and more healthy direction. All right. I want to say that I thank you all for being a part of this movement. I think I mentioned that already. Hey, I encourage you. Look, it is Valentine's Day, and tonight is when the movie about Bob Marley's life comes out. I won't be able to see it until the following weekend. I have a pretty busy weekend. This weekend I'm going to be in Atlanta with my brother from another mother, Pastor D.E., as we celebrate the consecration of his entry into a College of Bishops. And I celebrate with him in that, and I'm grateful for this opportunity for him and for our organization called the International Communion of Expanding Consciousness. That's exciting. I can't wait to share more with you about that. It's already growing very fast. It's already gaining such a powerful momentum, and I can't wait to share all of that with you. But I'm going to be in Atlanta this weekend, so it's going to be a busy rest of the week, so I won't see the Bob Marley movie until the following week. But I encourage you, if you get a chance, go watch it this weekend. Go see the movie about Bob Marley. It really focuses on one love, and that was part of the inspiration for the name of our movement. Not because we necessarily believe everything that Bob Marley sang about, or a particular religious bend, but that one love, that one heart. Let's get together and feel all right. That's the essence of who we are as a movement. And I honor Bob Marley and all of the music that he really wanted to help change the world toward love with his One Love movement, his One Love music. With his music, he wanted to influence the world to be a better place. And we want to do the same thing through this movement. So I encourage you, go check it out. Also, I encourage you to give. This evening, give. There's the opportunities to give are going to be on the screen as we exit from here. I encourage you, as we receive an offering today, to give digitally or send a check or money order to our P.O. Box. That information will be on the screen. I hear the music getting started, so I'm going to get up out of here, and I'm going to say to you all now, go and make it a great day, a great evening, because you can. See you in the morning.